people, we are Tottenham TV, which on a day which could very well be Frank Day today. We've heard it's either today or tomorrow from Sami Mokbel. And yes, developments have been going on today regarding Frank and his backroom staff. So we heard that the hold-up was bringing over Justin Cochrane from Brentford, former Spurs coach as well. He was coach for the under-16s quite some time ago and left for a role in the English setup, gone to Brentford, worked his way up with Brentford. He has been Frank's number two. I don't know for how long he's been there for as Frank's number two, but at least a couple of years. And he's also recently been appointed as one of Thomas Tuchel's support staff for the England job as well. So a very highly rated coach. David Ornstein and Romano have both confirmed that he will be joining Tottenham now, because there was a bit of, I would say, a tug of war, some journalists were calling it, saying that, you know, he was on the list to become Brentford's new head coach to replace Frank. But it looks like Tottenham have won the tug of war.
Yeah, for a guy which I hadn't heard of probably for a week ago. Look, I'm sure he's very well known within footballing circles and within the people within the game. Clearly, he's very highly thought of. As you say, part-time with Thomas Tuchel. He's been around the block quite a bit with Tottenham and Brentford and very highly thought of at Brentford. In fact, apparently even considered to replace Thomas Frank as head coach of Brentford. That's how highly regarded he is. But I've never seen such a kind of big deal be made of a coach moving over from one club to another, holding up a deal like this. So, I mean, clearly it means that Frank was desperate to bring him with him, and clearly it means that he's very highly regarded. And in fact, apparently, according to reports, Frank sees him as essential to bringing him over to Brentford. Apparently, he's very, very influential when it comes to designing training sessions, and he's very influential in what's called in developing the attackers as well. And obviously he's got experience at Tottenham. He knows a lot of the young players. A lot of people digging up old tweets he's made about some of the younger players who are now, you know, in their 20s and early 20s, who he brought through at Tottenham. People like Dane Scarlett and Alfie Devine, who he was coaching at Spurs. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he does coming into Tottenham, coming back to the club that he was at many years ago, and if those relationships with some of the young players are still there, if he wants to use them, if he knows how to use them, how to develop them a lot better than maybe they've been developed recently. But it's very, very exciting and encouraging about how highly regarded he is, Justin Cochrane, and I welcome him to the club. Clearly, everyone's very excited about it. I can't sit here and say I know how he trains, or I've sat in a Justin Cochrane training session, because that's just not been the case. But given all the talk about him, it seems like this guy is quite a coup to have got him in.
Yeah, look, the main thing is, whether you know about him or not, that this thing was holding up the whole deal, and it wouldn't have held up the whole deal if Frank didn't see it as that important for the club or that important for his job moving forward. So I'm delighted with this deal. Like you say, the key thing as well is that he knows the club, he's worked within the club, and he's coming back to where he kind of made his name as a coach. You know, like I said, moving on to England, going to Brentford, and now, you know, you're not going to be a bad coach if you're part of Thomas Tuchel's setup in terms of the England job. So massive news for Tottenham. It looks as though that Chris Haslam and Joe Newton are moving across with him as well. So Joe Newton was the first team analyst, and Chris Haslam was the head of athletic performance for Brentford as well. So he's bringing across 3 coaches with him that we know of right now. No mention of the set-piece coach, which everyone was saying, you need to get in this set-piece coach because he's done so well for Brentford over the past couple of years. But those are the 3 guys that are coming across with him. Yeah,
which obviously is a big part of Thomas Frank's success, was how they were coaching on the training grounds, and everyone on the same page, kind of working together. We'll talk about the boardroom, but obviously the coaching staff. Chris Haslam has been working at Brentford for over 10 years, it says here, across 2 different tenures. And so he's been with Thomas Frank ever since Frank was there. So he knows him very, very well. And Joe Newton, it says here, Newton was in Tranmere Roma's academy before he was released in 2014 and enrolled in sports science degree at Wrexham. During his time at uni, he registered in Wrexham's squad but spent time on loan. But he said he completed his master's in performance analysis at the University of Chester, worked for the Welsh top flight for the New Saints. He then joined Brentford's first team performance analyst in 2019, and he is responsible for producing reports and post-match analysis on how the team has performed. And Newton has forged a very strong bond with Frank over the past 6 years. So he's going to be head of the analysis, and that's obviously maybe something we need to work on, because maybe our analysis hasn't been strong enough. But look, he's clearly done a great job with Brentford, so let's hope it translates.
Yeah, look, Thomas Frank, like I said, for the Cochrane, wouldn't bring people over that he didn't think are really important and really vital to move forward in his role at Tottenham. So look, we're going into a new era now. The Frank era is nearly upon us. I think, yeah, the announcement could very well come today, but it's definitely by latest tomorrow. So that is, yeah, that's the main thing. And I can't wait to see him in his first interview. I can't wait to see him in his in the Spurs tracksuit and everything like that. And yeah, we're in for an exciting summer ahead and an exciting season ahead, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hope so. I think when it comes to how he's going to develop the players, bring in new systems and all this kind of stuff, and get some fresh eyes on this squad, reprofile some of the players, get us more organised, more compact, harder to beat. 100%. I think that's exciting. Whether we're going to have an exciting summer, loads of transfers, big money signings, I think for me the jury's out on that. I'm not sure how exciting the summer's going to be from that sense. That's just a feeling I get. But look, we don't know that.
Whether it's a summer of exciting signings or not, the summer's still going to be exciting in anticipation for Frank Ball next season.
Yeah, 100%. And I can't wait for the first pre-season game, lead up to the Super Cup, and that's going to be his first competitive game. So I think the new era of Frank is exciting. I think it's a good choice, sensible appointment.
I like that tone. You're sounding a bit more excited now.
I'm excited for him, but I'm not excited for how the club are going to back him. Would be my point. I get a feeling they've brought him in because they think he can overperform given the wage budget. That's, I think, a big reason why he's been brought in. Obviously not the only reason, but I think, let's be honest, if Brentford's wage budget was different and they played the same way, there's a good chance he wouldn't have been brought in. I think a big reason is because they're the lowest wages and they overperform consistently. And that's a great thing, don't get me wrong. Not a criticism of Frank whatsoever. But I think knowing Daniel Levy, he'll be licking his lips at that and thinking, maybe I won't have to spend as much as I thought, given bringing him in.
Yeah, whether he ever thought that he was going to spend that much is a different question altogether. But that is about Frank. We've got a couple of transfer stories to bring you as well. Tom Colomose says that it's worth keeping an eye out for interest from Tottenham in Morgan Gibbs-White, as interest in the player from Manchester City has seemed to have cooled. They have brought in Tijani Reinders and Ryan Cherky now, so that makes complete sense on the Man City front. But Morgan Gibbs-White is a player that I absolutely adore. I think he's had a stunning season this year for Nottingham Forest. He's been, in my opinion, their best player this season. Everything just seems to go through him. A player that is, quite versatile as well. I would love to see him at Spurs, but I just can't see where the exact fit is for him at Spurs.
Yeah, I guess he can be quite versatile, but his best position is definitely in the 10. I think that is where he's strongest. He can play a bit out wide, but
so he can play an 8 as well.
Can play an 8 as well. And he obviously would be a lot of money. Obviously, I think there was an opportunity maybe a year ago or 2 years ago when they had the PSR problems. But I don't know if they're going to have that same issues this summer. So what the fee they'll be demanding is top whack for a player who was, nominated for Player of the Year in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So he won't come cheap. If we're spending that kind of money, if my prediction is correct, and I don't think we're going to spend that kind of money on more than maybe a player, maybe 2 if we're lucky, but I got a feeling the kind of money we're talking about for Gibbs-White, we're not going to see that kind of money spent on more than one player. That's what I think. And should that money be spent on Gibbs-White, I don't think that would be the smartest allocation of funds, but I do love Gibbs-White, and I'm not going to complain about bringing him in. He's a brilliant player, and I think for Frank as well, he would be brilliant for Frank in terms of how he fits in.
No, I agree with you in everything that you've said there. If I offered you the chance to sell Kulusevski this summer to bring in a Gibbs-White, would you do it?
Would I sell Decky to bring in Gibbs-White?
I think I would, I actually
Tough
think I
one.
would.
Tough one. Obviously, it's difficult. He's injured right at the moment, and obviously he might have a while to come back. Would I sell him? I don't know if I would. Maybe. I think they're very similar level, to be honest. I think they're very similar level. I think Gibbs-White maybe had a more consistent season last season. I think when they're at their best, I thought Decky probably was better when they're at their best, but maybe Gibbs-White obviously had a stronger season, but maybe there were reasons for that as well, why Decky's form tailed off, rather than it just being how good he is. But obviously, I thought Forrest also tailed off a bit, and I thought he tailed off as well, but maybe not as bad as Decky, of course. I think Decky's obviously a bit stronger when he is out wide than Gibbs-White, so that makes him a bit more versatile from that front. But I think Gibbs-White has that bit more about him, kind of in that 10 role, potentially, than Decky. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
I love Decky. I really do, and I love what he brings to the team. But I'm just looking at, Decky's whole kind of tenure at Spurs right now, and we've just never seen him fulfill his potential over a long stretch of, over the course of a season, really. He first came, unbelievable for the 6 months when he came in. Season after, not that great. Season after that, he's going into his third full season now with us, right? So that would be 3.5 seasons after this one. So I think this year at the beginning of the year probably saw his best in a Spurs shirt, but then again he went off the ball. Did he go off the ball because he's been overplayed and overworked? Probably, but still he did go off the boil.
Yeah, and that's he did, but I think when they're both at their best, I actually think Decky's better. I think he's got a better ceiling than Gibbs-White, potentially. That's the feeling I get. So if Frank can get that out of him on a more consistent basis, it'll be worth keeping him, I would say.
Yeah. I just feel like, as well, when you're looking at Frank and what he's about and, how he managed Brentford and stuff, I do feel like Gibbs-White potentially would be a better fit for us than a Kulusevski, particularly if you're going to play them both through the middle.
Maybe. I don't see how. Why would he be? What, in the 8 position, you mean, or in the 10?
In the 8, well, I was mainly talking about the 10, but I think that Gibbs-White is a lot more creative in the way that
I disagree
he
with
likes
that.
to play that 10.
I disagree with that. I don't think he's more creative than Decky.
I think
Decky creating one of the most chances in the league last season, even with underperformance.
Yeah, but you've got to look at our tactics as well. Look at our tactics compared to Nottingham Forest tactics.
Okay, but still, we're talking about Decky in a season where he had apparently inconsistent form, he had a drop-off, and he's still one of the higher chance creators in the whole league, even in a period where he was injured as well for 2 to 3 months, wasn't he? So I disagree. I don't think Gibbs-White's more creative than Decky.
Do you not think he has that better eye for a killer pass then, more than Gibbs-White?
No, not necessarily.
I think he does.
I'm not necessarily. I think they're both good passers.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm not trying to degrade Decky. I love Decky as a player. I really do, and I'm very happy to keep him on. I just feel like Morgan Gibbs-White would be a better fit for us.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think when they're both on top of their game, I think Decky's just as good a fit as Gibbs-White.
Fair enough. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you sell a Decky to bring in a Gibbs-White? Next up, we're going to talk about a report from The Sun, so take it with a bit of pinch of salt, saying Villa, Newcastle and Tottenham are monitoring developments with Jadon Sancho ahead of a potential move. I mean, I guarantee you now, we ain't bringing in Jadon Sancho, nor do I want him.
No, forget Sancho. I think a year ago, I was probably willing to take a punt on him after the failed move to Man United, and obviously he had a really good loan spell at Dortmund in their lead up to the Champions League final. Obviously, he's gone to Chelsea. He actually started off really well, didn't he, at Chelsea? And was thinking, maybe it was a big mistake for Man United to let him go. But tailed off quite badly second half of the season. Albeit, I thought had a fairly decent end to the season in the last few games, but he did tail off in large parts second half. He's now, 24. He's on massive wages. It's another club now in Chelsea who have actively paid money to not sign him permanently, even though his fee was only 25 million. So it's not exactly a massive outlay for a player of his supposed quality. They've decided to, rather than pay 25 million to sign him permanently, they've decided to pay 5 million to not sign him permanently. And now back at Man United, for me, I don't see a place for him at Tottenham. And I don't see Tottenham willing to pay those wages.
No, me neither. I think it's a complete non-starter, to be honest. And last but not least, this is an interesting one. Corriere dello Sport are claiming that the agent representing both Vicario and Dragusin has been spotted at Casa Milan for a meeting with Milan officials, where AC Milan have asked for information regarding both the players for a potential switch this summer.
Well, what's interesting is Milan could be set to lose Mike Maignan to Chelsea. I know it's not going to happen now before the Club World Cup, but it's clearly an interest there.
Yeah.
And maybe once that Club World Cup is finished and the window reopens, they could revisit that. And
they've also got hefty money in for Tijani Reinders as well.
They've got big money for Reinders. Obviously, they'll get a bit of money for Maignan as well if they do end up selling him to Chelsea. Even if they don't, he's only got a year left. He could go somewhere else. So they could definitely be on the market for a new keeper. Vicario, obviously, part of the leadership group here. He's been here for a couple of years, very highly thought of. I know didn't have a great end to the season last season, especially in the Premier League, but by and large has been really, really good. But he is Italian. Obviously, he's come through at Serie A. I don't know what kind of team he supported when he was younger, but a massive club in Italy like AC Milan, would he look at that and think, wow, I'd love to play for the San Siro every week and play for a club like AC Milan?
He grew up in Udinese.
Yeah, but I don't know who he supported or anything. I don't know. Maybe he's a Milan fan, maybe he's not. Maybe it's got nothing to do with it. But my point is, it's a massive club in Italy. Is he going to be looking at that and thinking, wow, what a opportunity if it came across him? Is Milan a big enough club still to turn his head? Now, we've also got Frank coming in, and I've posited potentially Kinski could be a better fit for what Frank wants to do than Vicario. So is there a potential what happens in summer? I would still say no, because Vicario is still our number one. I think he's going to start the season as a number one, and I don't think he's going to be in a rush to leave. And also, we're going to command a decent fee. We signed him for 17 million. I think we're going to be looking at 40 million at least for Vicario. So I think if Milan sign a keeper, I don't know. Maybe they would be, but it wouldn't spend 40 million on him. But I think the likelihood it doesn't happen. But I think it wouldn't. I think it might be one to keep your eye on in terms of maybe that one will generally grow. But I don't think it's likely to happen. Dragusin, I think we'll probably want to keep him. But if a good offer comes in, I mean, maybe it would be the right thing.
I disagree with Dragusin. I think we should keep him around. I think Frank would really like him as a centre-back. I think he profiles a lot better than maybe what we're going to look like next season. Yeah, if Andrew was still our manager, I'd agree with you. And I'd probably say, yeah, maybe it is a good time to move him on. But look, he's still a fairly new player within this squad. And like I said, I think Frank will really like him.
How much did we sign him for?
Dragusin, I can't
Was it
remember.
25?
Maybe. But he's still very young as well, and he's got a lot of development to do. People look at Dragusin like he's much older than he is. Like, he's a young defender, and in the system that we're going to be playing, I think he'll look really good in it. And I think when you're looking at the prospect of potentially losing Romero as well, I can't see us letting go of Romero and Dragusin in the same window.
I think if we get a good offer, which means maybe getting a bit of a profit on him, I think we should think about it. I think we should think about it.
Why is that? Do you not think he can develop into a really good centre-back for Frank?
I think he could potentially, but from what we've seen, obviously he's just come back from an ACL as well, so we could be talking about 6 months till he gets back to full fitness as well on top of that. From what I think Frank could do a lot with him, don't get me wrong. I think he definitely is a better fit for Frank than Ange. But I would still consider getting a profit and signing someone else potentially if it's possible, because I do think there's maybe potentially better out there. But I'm not desperate to sell him, but I just think if we get a good offer, I'd also consider it.
Yeah, we're not going to sell Dragusin and Romero in the same window. It's just not going to happen.
No, you're probably right about that.
Happen. And out of the two, Romero's a lot more likely to leave.
But if we can convince Romero to stay, then for sure I'll consider selling Dragusin.
Yeah, I mean, look, it has to be a really good offer, because I think he can go places at Spurs this season, and I think maybe once he does get back into the team, we know he's been on the grass since the back end of last season, so his agent said yesterday in an interview that he's going to be raring to go by the start of the season. Yeah, he might not see him at his best at the start of the season, but he'll get that game time and he'll get more match fit as the season progresses. And I think a lot of Spurs fans are going to start to change their tune on Dragusin once they see him under Frank, because he's a very good defender. So yeah, that is what we have for you for the Tottenham update today. Hopefully, whilst we're on stream today, we are going to get that Frank announcement, and I'm dying for it, man. Just bring it to us already.